Seahawks Pod. My name is Brandon. It didn't even start. Shit. Okay, there we go. All right, so we're live. This is Brandon Shoren. I'm a Seahawks fan from New York originally. Been a fan since 2005. I'm here with BK and Phantom, who feel free to introduce yourselves, guys.
Yeah, so BK voiceover. I've been a Seahawks fan for most of my life, originally from the Seattle area, and now I'm living out in Iowa.
Awesome.
Yeah, my name is Danny. I go by Phantom. I'm right across the border from Seattle, right in Vancouver, and I've been a Seahawks fan since 2010.
Oh, awesome. So this has been a very interesting week for Seahawks fans. One of my most hectic weeks on Twitter, I'd say. I woke up literally Tuesday. I don't know why I slept in like crazy on the East Coast, and I woke up to this trade, and it shocked me. And for the past few years, I've been hearing all about these Russ trades, and Russell Wilson, he's not the type of guy to want to demand out. And obviously, the past 2 years, he's underperformed a little bit. There's been issues on the coaching staff. There's been issues everywhere, and I wasn't really ready to fully rebuild, but now I guess we're getting on board with this. And our compensation from this was 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, and I believe a 5th. And Denver got Russell Wilson the 4th. We also got Noah Fant, who's a good young tight end out of Iowa. He's very athletic. We got Shelby Harris, and we got Drew Lock, who's a strong-arm quarterback who, like most Seahawks fans, don't think is the future, but we'll have to give him a shot. So with Russ leaving, long-term, I think that it is the right move. But short-term, I want to know from you guys. Well, I just want to know, first of all, just go and give us a brief reaction on what you thought of the trade, guys.
Go for it, BK.
You can go first. I'm trying to get some audio stuff fixed.
Okay, so my first reaction was, surprised, obviously. Second reaction was, sad because that's the guy that if you're in the age of 18 to 25, probably that's like the first quarterback you really paid attention to,
Sure.
with Seattle. So when I first saw it, I was very surprised, sad. And then I started thinking, you know what, this roster is not good enough. I can see why they're going in this direction, and I understand it. But obviously, I'm still disappointed in it. Sad it didn't work out, but ready for the future, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm kind of along the same lines there. I think the first word that comes to mind was just shock. Like I was hadn't been looking at my phone for a few hours, opened up Twitter and saw some random tweet about oh, Drew Lock is part of this trade to the Seahawks. And I'm like, why the hell would we trade for Drew Lock? That's stupid. And I scrolled and saw the Schefter tweet, and my heart just dropped. So yeah, after I got over the initial shock of it and sat down and thought about it, I guess it made sense. If you were going to move off of him, this was the time to do it, because he was going to be asking for a new contract at the end of this season. Almost certainly somewhere in the lines of a Patrick Mahomes or an Aaron Rodgers type deal. And I don't think the Seahawks were willing to pay for that. And if you're not going to stick with him long term at that price, then yeah, just made it. In the end, it made sense to move him for whatever you could get. As far as the trade compensation goes, I was hoping they would have got a little more, but I think that's the best offer that they were going to get at this point. And I think it gives us some good pieces to work around, for sure.
Not only that, I think it was the only offer that Russ was going to allow the Seahawks to get. He had his no trade clause, right?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was trying to say.
Yeah,
maybe DC would have done something, but if we were to get an offer with Chase Young or even Jonathan Allen, that's a very good building piece, And Russ being from that area, I thought there was a chance of that, but given the reports that have come out, I really didn't think that this was going to be initiated by Russ. I've always been at the point where, Pete Carroll and John Schneider have proved by cutting Richard Sherman, letting go of some key pieces in the past, that nobody's free of, being moved at this point. And we saw this with Bobby getting released too. And now that I'm starting to think about it, I think Russ might have pushed for this just as much as Pete and John have. And that's pretty surprising there. But I think it's time to move off the Russ. I think that we've seen his flaws in the past, and one of the things that has irked me in the past is a lot of the Seahawks success while Russ deserves a ton of it, and he is the best quarterback by miles in franchise history, he gets a ton of credit for a lot of things, and a lot of players really get overlooked in that. Our Super Bowl win was mainly led by the Legion of Boom. Sure, in that playoffs run, he made some key plays. We wouldn't be. He had to play well for us to win that 49ers game for sure. That team was as stacked as we were. They were right up there with us, and the first 3 years of his career, Russ was really helped out by a great roster around him. So we'll see what's going to happen in Denver. Obviously, I don't see myself rooting for the Denver Broncos at any point. Not that I would root for any other team, but I don't want them to win, but I want Russ to do well. He's such a great guy in the community. Sure, a little bit of his press conferences can come off as fake. He always says, in his conferences, Jimmy Graham's one of the best of all time to ever do it. Say about any player, he'll never be negative. And I guess that's just who it is. And it might come off as fake, but I do wish him the best. But at the same time, now after reflecting a little bit, I'm looking forward to the future. And we'll see what happens. I hope that our next quarterback can use the entire field. And I'm really hoping for, somebody who's got the whole package. Well, we'll get into that in a little bit. But one of the other things that really broke my heart that I'm even more upset about, I think, is, one of my favorite players of all time, and a lot of players of fan favorites, and Bobby Wagner getting moved. And that just absolutely sucks. The guy's been the ultimate pro, never complained about anything, been a great leader. And I don't know how our locker room's going to respond. I feel like we still have the talent to compete, but without Bobby, we might see some other veterans go out the door. And, at this point, my main first hope is, just keep DJ Reed. We really can't. If we want to have any chance of competing, we can't let our number one corner go. We can't go into season with, possibly trying to get Sidney Jones, and then Trey Brown is pretty unproven, and some other young guys in the secondary. We really need him. He's just can't let him go. So with Bobby leaving anyways, that was one player I want to see retire a Seahawk. You see Brian Urlacher, Patrick Willis, Luke Kuechly, Ray Lewis, great linebackers generation. All of them have stayed with one team. And to see Bobby go, it sucks. I wish him the best. I really, really do. And he didn't deserve this. And, there's still a glimmer of hope in me that, he gets re-signed and comes back. But if I'm Bobby, just like he's good friends with Richard Sherman, at the same point, I wouldn't be mad at him if he's like, screw this team, I'm going to go sign with the Rams or something like that. So I want to stop rambling. I want to let you guys give your opinion on Bobby and any more you want to talk about Russ.
Oh yeah, with obviously Bobby was honestly, in my opinion, way more heartbreaking than losing Russ, just because he's been just a stalwart, amazing leader of this defense ever since he's been drafted. Man's going to Canton. He'll be a first ballot Hall of Famer. I have no doubt in my mind. It's just as sad as it is to see him go. Even going into the offseason, I had it at the very least. He was gonna be required to take a pay cut, a pretty decent pay cut, if they were going to keep him at all, because there's no way that I think that they would keep him around at $20+ million a year, especially when you have Jordan Brooks, who really came on in the second half of the season, who I think is primed to be Bobby's heir at that middle linebacker spot. So it's tough, it's painful, but I'm happy that they were able to rip the Band-Aid off all at once. And I think that at the very least, I think that Jordan Brooks, I don't think he'll be Bobby, but I think he'll be a decent stand-up for the time being. I think he has a lot of great years ahead of him.
Yeah, so when I obviously, when Bobby got cut, I think, trading Russell Wilson was like the punch that, got you shook, and I think the knockout was the Bobby cut. And just as a fan, but we all kind of expected it, to be honest. Let's be real, we were all either seeing a restructure or a cut. And since when does John Schneider ever push money down extra seasons? He did that last year with the void years because of the cap space, because of COVID, obviously. But I mean, he's never been someone to restructure deals, push money down extra seasons. So it kind of just made sense to have Bobby get cut. But it is still sad. But I mean, with these moves, Seattle's now has the third most cap space in the league, behind Indianapolis, who just jumped up because of the Carson Wentz trade, and the Chargers, who might actually not be second now because they just traded for Khalil Mack literally an hour ago. But as of now, we have 51.4 million in cap space. So there's your, I guess, positivity if you're going to look for some with these moves. I mean, and talking about Jordan Brooks, I think the guy should be our middle linebacker now. It was kind of interesting when Bobby got hurt during the season because they slotted Cody Barton into that position, which worked.
Very well. Yeah.
He did play well, exactly, and that's what you think about. So we're just going to keep, Jordan Brooks at weak side and move Cody to middle, which I don't see happening. Especially with moving to this more 3-4 Fangio system, which is what the talk is right now. So, I mean, it's sad, but I mean, geez, like if you're rebuilding and you're not really planning on winning, I mean, you just got to go young, and I get it. Let Jordan take over as the quarterback of the defense and have Darryl Taylor in front of him, Jamal Adams behind him. Just keep this thing rolling with the young guys, right?
For sure. So one of the things that has been we've gotten a lot of overreactions the past few days, and one thing I'll go for before, because I don't want to spend too much time on this particular aspect, is DK and Jamal. These are two of our most well-known players at this point. And Tyler Lockett, I hope he stays, but there's a chance they'll trade him. What's going on. There's rumors going on, so I don't really want to mention that too much. But
the dead cap hit for Tyler getting traded this year makes zero sense. It would be an abnormal amount of dead cap money that would be put onto our payroll. It makes zero sense to trade Tyler, and I think that's just other markets saying, other reporters, just adding on to the, sell all mode that everybody thinks Seattle's doing. But I seriously think that Seattle's going to try to compete next year with Tyler and DK as their receivers.
I think
Yeah,
so.
no.
Pete Carroll's in the position. Yeah, go on. Sorry.
Yeah. So first off, I'd just like to make I don't think DK and Tyler are getting traded. Tyler mainly because I thought the same thing. I think he has something like a $28 million cap hit if he's traded this offseason. But actually, apparently, there's a stipulation in his contract with, I think he's like $3 million base salary this season with like $13 million in an option. And if you exercise that within the first 5 days of the new league year, which starts next Wednesday, I believe, you're actually only on the hook for half of that. So while it's still a pretty big dead cap hit, it's not as gargantuan as I originally thought. So I don't think they'll move on from him still, but just something to think about.
Yeah, that'd be super interesting. What would you think you could get for Tyler? A second?
I think at minimum you get a third for him, but I think you might be able to get him for it.
Good enough to get a second.
I don't think he's going to get a second. That's Stephon Diggs went for a second. I don't think you're going to get that.
I mean, it depends how desperate.
Yeah, plus he is 30.
Indy, maybe, I don't know. Indy, Washington, 1M, something like that. They
Well, I saw Pat's beat reporters talking about trading for Tyler Lockett, but they were also talking about trading for DK Metcalf. But they're also just super aggressive for a receiver for Mac Jones, I guess.
This roster thinks it's untouchable. In terms of since I've been watching, I've never been more excited about draft pick. The guy is an absolute beast. He's come here and just done. He's not the type of flashy pick the Seahawks usually go for. They usually go for the random guy. So once we got him, it was and Jets fans want him, which is absurd. They think they're in
and low key. I think DK Metcalf, this is kind of be maybe annoying to some people to say. I think DK Metcalf might be better with a different quarterback than Russ, just because you guys saw last season, DK didn't get targeted that much. Russ doesn't like to throw over the middles. Russ likes to throw to the sidelines, right?
Yeah.
And DK is really good on the sidelines when he's running a go or running an out. But I mean, DK's not the greatest corner, or no, that's not what I mean. He's not the greatest at running a corner route. If you guys know what I'm talking about. So I think with DK being such a big body, hitting him over the middle might be a little easier for a guy like Drew Lock, who none of us are intrigued by. But I think DK might be.
They try and get him in space, he's an agile player. It's stop running screens to the guy. Do anything else to get the guy the ball. It's ridiculous.
Absolutely.
Once you get him over the middle, he can break tackles, but that's not his. He's not. You can see by his 3-cone drill, he's not the most agile guy. He's a big, strong, fast player. That's dumb, but that's also play calling a little bit. And I hope. I was a big Waldron hater throughout the season, but I really hope he continues to progress and continues to evolve. And obviously, we saw at the end of the year with the running game, he could potentially do that.
Man, I loved Waldron's offense this year, and that might sound crazy to people, but I just don't think Russ committed to running,
Yeah.
you know, running Waldron's offense. And I think a little bit of that is Pete. But like what Waldron was doing was getting guys open for check downs, tight ends opened over the middle, and Russ just does not like to throw those passes. So
Exactly.
I think Waldron did fine. He was just dealt a bad hand, and I think moving on from Russ might be just the best decision for everybody at this point.
I think we also forget that he was a first-time play caller, so I don't think he was like super confident like for most of the season. Like there were some sound bites of him on the sideline with Pete where he was just like a few times like one after the other, just like going to Pete and just like, hey, do you think I should do this, or do you think that I should, or we should run this concept, and then like trying to get his approval, which is fine. He's like trying to get like as much experience as he can and not wanting to give things up. But I think towards the end of the season, I think we really saw more of the implementations of this RAM system to where like it wasn't based around like, oh, we're just going to like beat you with our best guys. We're going to scheme people open. Like I know I've seen a couple people be like, oh, Freddie Swain is like decent, but he's only good in like busted coverages. Like was it really busted coverage all the time, or was that just really good scheming and just scheming wide receivers open all the time? And Russ just not taking
so
the
Russell did not throw to Freddie. He
Yeah.
didn't throw to Freddie unless it was busted, like unless he was wide open. Russ threw to Tyler Lockett, DK, and sometimes Gerald Everett. Russ is really, really, really good at what he does, but the things that he's bad at, and he's horrible at those aspects in his game.
Yeah, he holds the ball way too long. He looks like a lot of the time, a lot of his turnovers and mistakes are just like, it looks like it's like he's like a headless chicken at some points. When we play the Rams, we've seen that the past few years. The offense looks absolutely flustered. And part of that could have been, well, this year, with Russ coming back too fast, but he was healthy for the Rams game. And that game was one of the most, I had to drink a lot to watch the second half of that game just to see us play the Rams there. That was awful after we took the lead. It was so embarrassing. So, I mean, that was the end of our season fully, any glimmer of hope we had was lost in that game. But yeah, I think it's time for a change, and we'll see what happens. And so one thing I want to talk about quickly before we get on to players, and the next quarterback of this team and what we think about who to resign. What do you guys think of Pete Carroll? Pete Carroll gets so much hate. You go to any Seahawks Twitter thread, any group chat, half the Seahawks Twitter hates Pete Carroll, half of them loves him. I'm a Pete Carroll defender to a fault a little bit, but I do think this year we saw some things that are absolute negatives, and he's lost control. And I do think that, you're not going to get the same type of effort and the best out of their players. I know it's cliche, but Pete Carroll, he gets the team ready to play whenever. You don't see this team look like the Jets or the Lions in seasons where they're struggling. A lot of teams would have folded this year and finished 4-13, not care. We've seen that with coaches like Kyle Shanahan. Even they'll tank. There's a lot of crap that Pete gets, but I mean, I think this year for him and John Schneider, as people have said, the legacy is really on the line, and I like the guy, but now is his time to really use all the energy he has left, everything he has left, to try and rebuild this team in his image. And we'll see if it works. We'll see if running the ball and the old style offense he has with Shane Waldron, who's a more new age type of guy, works for us. So what do you guys think of Pete?
I like Pete when it's Pete. Like when it's Pete's team. I don't like Pete when it's Russ's team. And they obviously have their differences, but I think with Russ gone, you're going to get more of Pete ball. With a Rams, Waldron look to it, but I think you're going to run the ball a lot more, and I don't have a problem with that because everybody has a problem with running the ball, but nobody has a problem with running the ball well. And I think we found that with Rashad Penny at the end of the season and with Alex Collins against the Steelers. Everybody was like, keep pounding the rock, right?
Sure.
So I don't have a problem with Pete's philosophy on offense if it works. But when it doesn't work and he still keeps trying to, run the ball into D lineman, that's when it gets, a little irking. But I mean, we got a lot of money. See, upgrade center, hopefully upgrade right tackle, get someone along with Rashad Penny, and I think you can find yourself really successful with this Waldron scheme.
Yeah, I think Pete, Coach Pete, is a great guy. I think he brings a lot to the table. I mean, he helped coach probably one of the top 5 defenses in NFL history, maybe even top 3 defenses in NFL history. helped build this team into something relevant again. I don't know. In like the last 5 or so years, what I haven't been as much of a fan of is personnel, Pete. And granted, we're not in the room there. We don't really understand like how much of a impact he has on like the personnel decisions that are made, like when it comes to draft picks or free agency or re-signings, and how much Schneider has like final say on those. But just some of the personnel decisions that he wants to bring in for their scheme just are baffling at times. So yeah, I think that Pete gets way more hate than he deserves. Some of it's warranted. I think there's plenty that's not. But yeah, I think for the most part, he's been the best. I mean, hands down, the best coach in franchise history. But there are plenty of things that I think that he can improve on.
Definitely. The same here. I think that, Mike Holmgren was pretty good though too. I mean, that was when I first started watching football. Around then was the end of his era. But you could see, we've seen so many just absolutely terrible coaches in the NFL that, you got to appreciate Pete for what he is. He obviously, people go back all the time to hate on the Seahawks for that Super Bowl play. And I've always said my stance in that is that it's just a great, fantastic play by Malcolm Butler, first of all. It's not that you should have ran the ball, but it's like, jumping that route, that's an all-time great play. Credit to the Patriots, good game to them. It's going to hurt Pete's legacy, but that's football, we see so many teams blow leads and shit like that. So, yeah. And anyways, so let's get on now to some players. So first, one player that I think we might be moving off of, maybe we could go by positions. We'll talk about the quarterbacks last. So let's start with running backs. I think my opinion on running backs is that Chris Carson, his time might be up. He still has a pretty, what did he get? Like 2 years, 24 million last year, if I'm not mistaken. It's off the top of my head.
No, he got like 2 years, 10 million. It was a very cheap deal.
Aaron Jones got like 12 million, I think.
Okay, yeah. My bad. Yeah, 12 million for running backs way too much. That was didn't think that one through. But he's been very injury prone. He's good when he's on the field, but I think he might be a player where we can possibly optimistically get a 4th round pick out of. And I like Chris Carson. He's a dog when he's on the field, but he's always injured, and I don't know if he fits the Waldron scheme too well. And also, one of the things that we've done is we've ran him, or at least, the thing that pissed me off most this year is when Gino was in and we would run Alex Collins out of the shotgun and then have Gino go empty and just get sacked every time. That was brutal. But I think, I think it's time for Rashad Penny to really get his chance. I know that he struggled a lot of the time when he's on the field and he's been injured all the time, but he looked fantastic those last 5 games. He looked like, remember, if you guys don't remember, in like 2017, 2016, 2015, Thomas Rawls, he had some crazy games. It's basically like that, but much faster, much more athletic, and higher upside. And I think we got to roll with Penny. I like Travis Homer too, a fantastic special teamer. I used to hate when we would run him in his rookie year and stuff like that too much, but he's someone I'd like to keep. And then DJ Dallas is pretty mad, but he's a good special teamer. You guys?
I think if they commit to Chris Carson and keeping him on this team, he makes enough money where he could legitimately be a backup running back. I think if he plays too much, he'll get hurt again. If he's a backup, he gets paid like a backup. He's not expensive. I disagree with thinking we can get a 4th from him. He's way too injury prone. I don't think any team would trade any more than a 6th or a 7th. And I think, more than likely he'll just get cut because I'm pretty sure you save $3 million in cap if you cut Chris Carson. But he's so cheap that you might as well keep him on the roster as a backup. But I don't like him as a starter, especially not in this scheme.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that. Carson's bell cow days are done. Like, a chronic neck injury, especially for a physically demanding position like running back, is just a death knell for any player at that position, I think. I mean, if I'm being perfectly honest, I think he should just retire and just like quit while he's ahead.
He had neck injuries too.
Yeah.
Sure.
So yeah, you save $3 million by moving off of him. I think you can get. There's a couple of players in free agency that I think you could target that would be just as productive for less money. Obviously, we need to re-sign Rashad Penny, whether it's a 1-year or 2-year deal. Just make it like really like loaded with incentives, like performance-based incentives, and then just go from there. Because we always knew that he had the talent. That's why he was drafted in the 1st round in 2018. But for some reason the injury bug has just not been kind to him. And now when these past 2/3 of the season, we saw what he can do when he's healthy. So yeah, absolutely. I think re-signing Rashad Penny is a no-brainer.
What do you guys think he gets a year? Maybe 3.5, 4, something like that. If we do no contract,
I would give him 2 years, $9 million right now.
Makes sense.
Yeah, give him a prove it deal, and if he can stay healthy and has good stats, and sign him long term. But he's got to get on a prove it deal because he went half a season with being healthy. Like people forget, he started the year on IR. He played a game. He went back on IR, and then he went stupid.
Yeah, I mean the first 3 games he came back, he was pretty bad. I mean, it was offensive, a lot to blame for that, but dude was getting tackled 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage like almost every play.
Say what you will about like his terrible running, but as soon as Jake Curhan went in at right tackle, he just started like bawling.
Yeah,
which is weird because Brandon Schill is a decent run blocker.
Yeah,
he has his problems in pass blocking, but yeah, Jake Curhan definitely made a difference. And I think at that point, Damian Lewis started getting a little bit more comfortable at the left guard spot. And I think Ethan Posick finally got back into the groove of playing because remember, he was on IR for half the season as well, right?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, he was. We were starting that center is absolutely not a good
Kyle Fuller is so bad.
Yeah.
He is
so anyway,
we always have that center. We started Joey Hunt too, who could not.
God, don't remind me about Joey Hunt.
I just have flashbacks of Fletcher Cox bull rushing him into the ground for a sack on Russell. Oh,
the worst one I remember was that like Sunday night game and just DJ Jones just like completely bowls him over.
Yeah.
And then just goes and sacks like Russ for like 10 yards. I'm like, that is terrifying. Sorry, but getting back on topic. As far as the rest of the running back room goes, Travis Homer's a fantastic third down back. He's one of the best pass blocking running backs in the league. He's got really good strength behind him. Dallas is okay depth. Aside from that, like if we're going to bring in any free agents, I like Marlon Mack from the Colts. He's had some really productive seasons. He's just had his carries like reduced by a ton because Jonathan Taylor is insane, and he's taken up all those snaps. So I think he'd be a cheap option to bring in for some additional depth, and also get somebody on day 3 in the draft.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'd rather pay a running back in free agency some I don't want to say cheap money, but just above it. And I would be into drafting a running back, but yeah, like you said, day 3. 4th round, 5th round, some guy like that can just prove it, just like we did with Chris Carson. I'm not interested in paying a Leonard Fournette, or a who else is a free agent running back. Somebody in that matter. I'd just give Rashad his 2-year contract and roll with one of those guys.
Yeah. So let's go through. We'll go through some positions quickly and then finish up. Talking about quarterbacks for a good amount because that's the main topic here, I guess. So I'll go through tight ends. So tight end, we have Noah Fant. I'm looking forward to him. I think that he's been pretty productive when he's on the field. Denver has just had an awful QB situation. He can run block a little bit, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, I haven't watched that film. I don't know, actually. I shouldn't say stuff I don't know. But he's obviously the future, which means that Gerald Everett, I think his time's probably up. He had some upside. I really did like him after the catch in Seattle. But he had some really bad games too, and I don't know if he's worth paying at this point. And then there's Colby Parkinson, who I can say is a good blocker, but I don't know if he's really ready to be a backup tight end, and I don't know if we're going to be paying Will Dissly. So going through a tight end room, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I think if you're going to draft a guy in the 6th or 7th round. Have Noah be your starter. Draft one, and sorry, I forget the guy's name. It was just on the tip of my tongue. You just said it.
Parkinson?
Kobe Parkinson, yeah. Have him be their backup. He's barely touched the field. Give him a chance, see what he's got. He's 6'7", 6 foot. Yeah, like, man, just throw him the ball. See what he's got. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You're in a rebuilding phase. This is what it's for, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, similar. Like, if you asked me 3 days ago, before, like, the Russ trade went down, I would have been like, re-sign Gerald Everett to like a 3 years, $18 million, and then sign Will Dissly to like a vetman contract and go from there. Now I'm just like, we got Noah Fant, obviously, in the fact he is such a high upside, and maybe he'll actually have a QB, whoever that is, that actually uses his tight ends properly.
I was going to go say
Drew Lock.
Yes.
Yeah.
all these guys have a little.
He's had so much success with Drew Lock.
Yeah.
All these tight ends have had a little bit of a flash to them. You know, you look at Luke Wilson, even Luke Wilson, Anthony McCoy, Jimmy Graham. All these guys can be vertical threats, but like you guys have said, Russ does not throw the tight ends. So I think we can't really. We need more of a sample size with guys like Colby Parkinson. Even though he's more of a, I don't know if he's the most athletic guy, but we'll see. You know, at least
yeah. Parkinson might not be the most athletic, but the dude's massive, like 6'7". He's like Luke Wilson, but he can actually block. You know, it's fantastic, and I think it's criminal how they've like underutilized him in the past. I know he's kind of buried on the depth chart, but I think whoever is your QB, you got to find a way to utilize him because I think he could be a really big contributor next season.
Same here. So let's go to left tackle now. I think that we can all say with Russ leaving his buddy Dwayne Brown, who's still a good player at this point. You know, he played okay. I mean, he wasn't the same player he was a few years ago, but I think at this point, you know, it might be time to go younger at tackle. And there's going to be a lot of discussion if we want to go tackle at 9 with either Charles Cross or the guy from NC State. I forgot his name, or the Iowa State guy. Not Iowa. Sorry, Northern Iowa.
Yep.
I forgot his name, but let me go look it up.
Trevor Penning.
Trevor Penning. Hey, he's pretty intriguing prospect. But do you guys think we draft a tackle?
And the NC State guys, I'm going to botch this name.
Iker Ekwonu or whatever.
It's
Icky's not going to last to 9. He's going to be gone in the top 5 for sure.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But there's people saying he could go over Evan Neal.
Yeah. So do you guys think that we sign somebody? Do you think we draft somebody? Because I know the main guy is Armstead from the Saints, but that's going to be a massive contract. I'm going to have to commit a lot of money.
Hell no.
I'm not signing Armstead.
No.
You could have talked me into it like a little while ago, but like he's going to cost you an arm and a leg, and he tends to break at least something significant every. He has the injury bug. So
yeah.
You could have talked to me about it Tuesday morning, but not Tuesday afternoon. I don't see a point of draft or of signing Teron Armstead to a large contract when your quarterback is day one starter right now. It was Drew Lock. I think you just see what Stone has. You know, everybody was so hyped about Stone when he was drafted. See what he's got. If it doesn't work out, you know, obviously you could draft a guy at 9. I don't want to, but you could. But I think you just run with Stone right now. See what he's got.
We'd have Curhan on the other side because Shell's a free agent, right?
Shell is a free agent.
Yeah, don't resign Shell.
So yeah, you really players are unproven.
Maybe you draft somebody in maybe with a late day 2 pick to compete with him at right tackle, or find like a cheap veteran. I really like Abraham Lucas out of Washington State as like a good piece to develop going forward. He had a sick combine, so
yeah, good move. So going through the rest of the offensive line, I guess we're going to D-Lou's still under contract. He's going to get a spot. Then we have Gabe Jackson, who's a veteran. He was good last year, but I don't think there's anything special. You know, the offensive line is still an issue, so that's something. And we also had who's the guy who played very well at the end of the year at Wake Forest? I want to say he starts the next 2 games. Haynes, yeah.
Forest, yeah.
We give him an opportunity as a question, you know, to get more playing time. I've heard about that. I was watching Real Hawk Talk.
And I mean, possibly with your 40 or 41 pick, you might be lucky to get Tyler Linderbaum, but I don't see him falling that far. Yeah. Honestly, at this point, run with Posick because he's not as bad as everybody thinks, and you know this isn't the time with Russell's play style to be complaining about, you know, centers right now. Right? I just just run with Posick in my opinion, or you go get Tyler Linderbaum with the 40 or 41 pick.
Yeah, maybe I'm a little biased because I live nearby where the Hawkeyes play, but like Linderbaum, I don't think people realize is in my opinion, one of the best center prospects I've ever seen. In my history of watching, they do fall. I don't think they're going to fall all the way to 41. I still think he's going to go in the top 15, but I'll end up seeing. I mean, there's this great video of him in high school. He wrestled Tristan Wirfs and just put him on his ass. It was just the most satisfying thing to watch.
High school, they're both from Iowa originally. They went to the same high school, or they were?
They did.
Oh wow, that's great.
So
That's interesting. I didn't know that. Yeah, you know what? You know more about him than I do.
yeah,
But then again, I thought Creed Humphrey was going to go first round last year, and he lasted all the way to what, 50, 56? Is that where he went?
he
Might have
63.
been bigger, yeah,
He went to the
63.
56 is where we picked, I think.
Oh yeah, that's probably the PTSD from that Dwayne Eskridge pick. But yeah,
Yeah.
Off topic. How's being? Is the atmosphere going to Kinnick Stadium? Is that pretty sick? Because I know a lot of people talk about all these crazy Big Ten schools having great environments. I mean, I've never been to Iowa. I'm just curious. Is it a great football stadium?
It's wild. I can't wait for it to be summer and all the undergrads go home. It's good. It's
Are you in college now, or?
Oh God, no. I'm well done with college.
Oh, I'm 24, so I feel like I'm well done out of it too.
I got you.
Okay, yeah,
Oh.
it's awesome though. So let's get to defense. So we'll go defensive line quickly. Who do you think we keep? Who do you think we get rid of? For me, I'd like to keep Dunlap, even though he's aging. I mean, and I don't know what his cap hit is necessarily. I don't think it's too bad. So I'd like to keep him. We have Puna. We're going to switch to 3-4, so we'll see the best Daryl Taylor. Rushing a little bit more, which would be nice. But I could see guys like I think it's time to possibly move on from Benson Mayala, who had high hopes for, was definitely underachieved in Seattle. I believe he started his career with us for a little bit, and he went to Oakland, and he did. But obviously, it hasn't worked out. And then we had Kerry Hyder was an absolute bust. He did absolutely nothing besides maybe had like a sack like one of the last 2 games. So that sucked, and we need a lot of help there. And at 9, possibly if Kayvon Thibodeau falls, or maybe we can go after somebody like David Ajabo or one of these high potential pass rushers. That'd be cool. Because I mean, we'll talk about that in a bit. But who do you think we keep on defense one? Who do you think we get rid of? And who do you think we possibly add in free agency?
I think we get rid of Dunlap because I don't think he's going to want to be here. He didn't enjoy his time last year until the end of the season, and maybe that changes because Clint Hurt's a defensive coordinator now. I don't think we keep Dunlap. I think you just say, thanks for what you did with us. Go get your ring. I think cutting Kerry Hyder is worth it. I don't even think we should re-sign Al Woods at this point because he's a guy that, is 34. What is he going to want to do on a rebuilding team? But then again, that can all change with who is at the quarterback because you've all seen the reports about Deshaun Watson. We'll get to that later. But I think picking an edge guy at number 9 is intriguing. Kayvon may fall. I think it's more likely that a guy like Jermaine Johnson from Florida State, gets picked there. But yeah, I mean, just pairing somebody with. Say that again.
I said with Jermaine Johnson, he's not going to go top 10. I don't think we'd probably be able to trade down that scenario, right?
Yeah, possibly. He had a crazy Senior Bowl. But I think keeping it young on the D line, just giving guys chances like Alton Robinson, who I've been screaming to get on the field for a while now, and see what you can get if someone falls to you at 9 like Kayvon. I think that would be insane. That would be such a good pick. But yeah, I mean, that's my ideas on it.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way on letting Al Woods walk. Also because we got Shelby Harris as part of that trade. I don't think Puna's big enough to like play that bona fide like nose tackle position in 3-4. But at the very least, I think Shelby Harris is like great as like that like 3-4 big end that you like really like stand after. So I think let Woods walk. I think at this point let Dunlap walk. I don't know if it was. I mean, one of the main reasons why he left Cincinnati was because like he didn't really fit well in that 3-4 defense that they were running, and I think he's already fed up with the way the defense was this past season. So yeah, I think if he wants to leave, let him go. But then again, even in a down season for him, he still had 8.5 sacks, which is still wild. So
he is under contract too.
Yep, he's still under contract. He doesn't really have a big cap hit next season. It's like something around like $6 million or something. But
he could also fit a leadership role. Lacking that at this point. I don't think Jamal's necessarily. I don't want to say mature enough because I don't know the guy personally. But we need somebody to really be a voice in that locker room. That's why I was so pissed when KJ left the last season.
Jamal Adams was the voice of the New York Jets locker room, though. He was the leader of that team until he wanted out. So, I mean, Jamal wasn't happy there, but he's getting paid a lot of money in Seattle. So I see a big season from Jamal coming up, and I know people are down on him, but trust me, I think that dude's about to eat this year with the new defense.
Yeah, I mean, he basically broke the for his first year. He struggled in coverage a little bit, but after that Rams game, he was decent in coverage. He wasn't great, but he was making plays on the ball. He was at it, he was playing with a lot of fire and a lot of energy. You saw that Packers game. We should have won that game if Russ didn't play like absolute crap, because he came back too early and like, what was the weather like? 6 degrees out.
It was terrible.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. So that game, that was one of Maul's best games, and unfortunately got injured pretty soon after that. I think in the Cardinals game, I want to say.
Yeah, but swinging back to defensive line, real quick. I think there's a lot of ways that they could go, but I think whatever they do going forward, it has to be built around Darrell Taylor. I think that guy has so much upside going into the season. Like I think redshirting his, essentially redshirting his like rookie season was probably the best thing that could have happened. He got to sit back and like really like take in, and get coached up, and I think he's going to have a monster season. I'm predicting he has at least 10 sacks next season.
Yeah, the facts that Darrell Taylor at midseason started getting double teams, fresh off a metal rod being in his leg, is like you pair that dude with a Kayvon Thibodeau. Good luck. That is insane to me. That would be such a pipe dream. But I agree with you 100%, PK.
Do you think that Alton Robinson could fit in the 3-4?
I think it's criminal how much he's been underutilized. I don't, but that's the thing. I don't really see how he fits in this 3-4 defense. He needs to get more snaps, but I don't think he's fast enough to be an outside linebacker in a 3-4, and I don't think he's big enough to be like a defensive end in.
Yeah, that's the one good thing about
Shelby Harris. Switching to the 3-4 is your defensive end does look like Shelby Harris.
Exactly.
And Puna maybe, but Puna doesn't really. Puna's not the greatest at that spot. He's a kind of a 4-3-1 tech, and that's his best position.
Sure.
Yep.
Yes, I was hoping, I think that maybe Shelby could play sort of like a Cam Jordan role in our team. I know that was somebody who, when we weren't in the stage of quote unquote, retooling and rebuilding, I would have loved to, see him in our defense. So, at first I underestimated Shelby Harris a little bit. I need to look at his film a little bit, or at least, just look at something, because I haven't really seen too much of him play. But, he's 30, he could be a leader, and we need all the help on the defensive line we can get.
So if you want like a true monster on the interior, in the draft, go get Jordan Davis at 9, the defensive tackle out of Georgia. The man just absolutely obliterated the combine. Like,
he is
going to be
different.
a monster for years.
He is a run stopper though, and that kind of makes me think like, that would be fun to grab him, but he's not a pass rusher. If you look at his sack numbers from over the past years at Georgia, he does not have the sack numbers. And I think of a guy like Brian Monet there, who's played good in his past, and I just think, I think there's another position where you should grab someone at 9 instead of Jordan Davis, just because of guys like Monet and Puna.
Yeah, that's fair.
So so getting to linebackers now. Obviously, I think it's after the first 3 games, the Vikings game he was pretty bad in, which I actually went to that game. But after that game, we saw Jordan Brooks really develop into somebody who could potentially be a star. He has a lot of similarities to Bobby. I don't think he's as polished in coverage yet, but he could definitely take the middle linebacker role, like you guys were saying earlier. And then we have Cody Barton, who looks pretty good. But outside of that, we have some questions. I don't know if you guys think that potentially coming off of multiple injuries. Oh my God, I'm missing his name. He went to Utah. The same Marquise Blair. If he could possibly get some sort of hybrid linebacker role. But what are you guys thinking there? And do you think we should add somebody?
Well, talking about Marquise Blair. Oh, sorry, you want to go, BK?
Yeah, sure. As far as the position, yeah, we absolutely need to reload. It's just the question of where we go. Like, if you want to like go with what we have, like Benson Mayowa was fine as like a Sam linebacker. It's not his traditional position. He's more of like a downhill, like speed rusher. But he was fine if you kept him there. Barton is the one that I think is I don't know where I don't think he can't play Sam. He was terrible in the few games that he was starting at that position. He played well when he slid in for Bobby, but I think Brooks should be playing that role. I don't know how he would react to playing Will. So,
well, remember in a 3-4, there's 2 middle linebackers, right?
That's also true. Yeah. So yeah, I think he could maybe slide in, but also there's a pretty decent inside linebacker that just got cut by the Cardinals, and Jordan Hicks that they might want to take a flyer on. See what goes on there.
Yeah, with linebackers, to me, I think Jordan Brooks, you put him at middle linebacker, and I think you'll seriously start to see his game flourish. I think, you draft him as a middle linebacker, but you play him at the weak side. I think, those, pass rushing snaps he had, and those outside, slot receiver coverages that he was using, or that he was doing. That's not his game. His game is a middle linebacker. He's great at being a run defender and a QB spy even too. So I think he's going to be great in that aspect. He's been great in the run game, obviously. But I do think his coverage gets a little bit easier with moving to middle linebacker. Not a lot easier, but a little easier. But with Cody Barton, he's also a middle linebacker, which is tough. But like I said, 3-4-2 middle linebackers, two different roles though. I do think you draft a guy, or grab a guy like Jordan Hicks. But yeah, I think linebackers, especially with the new 3-4, it's a little different. I think we're a little bit better than people think we are by losing Bobby, just because of who we've drafted. So I'm not too worried about linebacker, although it's going to be bad compared to what we've had. It won't be horrible.
Yeah. So I guess next we should go to the secondary before we start talking about, the main point, which is the QB position and draft. So let's start with corners. I think that out of everybody in our secondary, the most important person we could re-sign this year has got to be DJ Reed. Like I've been saying, we can't go into next season unproven at corner. We've seen what happens when we start Trey Flowers getting abused every single season in the beginning of the year, covering elite receivers. So I think, DJ Reed, I think we got to pay him some decent money. I think that, he's a very similar player to like Shaq Griffin, in my opinion. He's replaceable, but, he makes plays on the ball. He's improved every year, and he deserves to get paid, and I hope it's by us. I think that even as important as Quandre is coming off injury, I think that even DJ might be more important because we could slide in Ryan Neal or some of your young guys back at safety or even draft somebody there. So I think that if we have DJ Reed and Trey Brown somewhere, we could possibly bring a Sidney Jones if it's affordable, or we could draft a corner. I mean, Stingley would be pretty cool, but I don't know if he's gonna be the answer at 9. We'll have to see how he does, in his pro day. And what do you guys think about that?
What do you think that DJ Reed is gonna make on the open market?
Probably a crazy market this year for corners. I think he's going to get 15, honestly, 13 to 15 a year. Yeah, it's not a. I mean, you have old guys in Diggs and what's the other corner? J.C. Jackson.
J.C. Jackson's asking for like Ramsey money. It's going to be.
Wow. So is DJ Reed the second? Well, not the second best, but is he the second most attractive corner on the free agent market?
Pull up the free agent corners real quick.
Yeah, I have a list. Give me a sec. So your free agent corners are, J.C. Jackson is number 1. Then it's Stephon Gilmore from the Panthers. Carlton Davis from the Bucks is a big one. Casey Hayward from the Raiders. Charvarius Ward from the Chiefs, and then it's DJ Reed. This is from
how much?
This is PFF's ranking, so take them with a grain of salt.
Yeah, literally, I hate PFF. How much better is Carlton Davis than DJ Reed? And
I think he's not necessarily in a different tier from DJ Reed, but I think he's noticeably better than him in the limited games I've watched.
Yeah. Casey Hayward is old.
Yeah, exposed a few years ago. I'm trying to think that
Casey Hayward's old. I don't want anything to do with him.
No, yeah. I mean, DJ being the 4th, or I guess the 5th in the PFF rankings, 5th best corner on the market. I think if you can't get a guy like DJ, you go hard for a guy like Rasul and try to get him on a decent deal.
Rasul Douglas would be intriguing. Also, if you're looking for somebody to pick at 9, you could always go with Ahmad Sauce Gardner out of Cincinnati.
Do you think that Do you think with the change to the 3-4 that he fits it? Because he seems like a Pete Carroll kind of guy in the 4-3 zone scheme. But if
I
we're running more man,
I think he
you
can
know,
play that press man coverage pretty well, to be perfectly honest. And I think he is like the prototypical Pete corner, but maybe he's changed his tune. I mean, he did draft Trey Brown, who's like the complete opposite of what he looks for in a corner. So,
I want
and
Trey
that turned
Brown
out
in
great.
the slot. That's where I want Trey Brown because I'm so done with Hugo.
Oh God.
Hugo's this is my take on Hugo. I think Hugo is the best worst player ever. He's good, but he's bad at do you know what I'm saying though? Like he's a bad player, but he's good at being a bad player.
Like he got that like watching him like get that pick in the Lions game only to like drop it and fumble it out of bounds. Like and Taylor Decker almost got that ball back was the most I've never been so like annoyed at a player that got an interception in my life before. And it was just painful to watch. If you can upgrade at him at your nickel spot, I think you 100% do it. And plus you save like $2.5 million by cutting Ugo at this point.
I think you just did with Trey Brown coming back. I think Trey Brown's a perfect slot corner, and I think if you can get an outside guy to along with DJ, I think your secondary actually starts looking really good, like really good, really underrated.
Do we pay Sidney Jones because he was decent last year? You know, I feel like he got better as the year progressed, but he didn't. It wasn't spectacular or anything. You know, do you think
I'd 100% pay him. I'd pay him like a 1 year, $5-6 million. I think he's earned it.
Yeah, he's never had a problem with being good. He's had a problem with being healthy. You know. Yeah. So I think you do pay him. I don't know if you start him, especially if you draft a corner, but you know, I think he's really good depth, and he can start, and he can be successful in this scheme.
Definitely. So going to safety now, what do you guys think about Quandre? Do you think we pay him after he's going to want a lot in the market? I feel like he's the top safety at this point. Him and Honey Badger.
Paying $30+ million on the safety position, I think, is a bad idea.
Yeah, I totally agree. I would let him walk. Sadly, he's been so good for us, but you got to let him walk. And you got to play Marquise Blair at his position that you drafted him for. Stop playing him in nickel. He was never a nickel corner in college at Utah State or Utah. He was a safety, and I don't know if you guys remember because I went to this game, the preseason game against the Broncos, the year after he was drafted. He made this hit and against the Broncos tight end, and he killed him, man. Like the guy is a safety. Him and Jamal.
Oh yeah, I think I was at that
sounds
game.
Good.
It was at that game too.
We probably saw each other. Probably half.
Yeah, maybe. Anyway. Yeah. Sorry, keep going.
No, that's all I was going to say.
I'm with you guys. I feel like, he's not the number one priority right now. It's probably offensive line, pass rusher, and corner. And, I mean, I'd like to see Quandre come back. If we can give him, I don't even know what market value would be if we can give him maybe 8-9 a year, maybe. I don't know.
For Diggs?
Or what his market value is, that's, I haven't.
I think he's going to ask $13+ million a year.
Yeah, and I think the Eagles are going to pay him that.
Yeah.
The team back up a Slay. Yeah, for sure. Do you think, because Marquise Blair can never stay healthy, do you guys think we bring back Ryan Neal, who's done a pretty decent job when he's been here?
Ryan Neal is not a starting safety. I think he's a corner that's a dime corner that's playing out of position and has been for a while. He's decent when he's in backups and in limited snaps, but when he had to start those last 6 games in place of an injured Jamal Adams, he was not very good. Which sucks for me to say because I think he's shown flashes of like a talent, like that Cowboys game in 2020 where he got like the game sealing interception. I thought was like pumped up, like that was amazing. But I think you bring him back like as a backup, but I think trusting him to be your starting free safety, I think is going to be a recipe for disappointment. I think there's some decent safeties you can look at even in like early round 2 that you might be able to get in the draft. Or if you want to wait until day, or if you want to wait till early day 3, there's also some decent backup options. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry for interrupting you. I just think you got to give a shot to Marquise Blair at safety. I think you have to. I don't want to pay Quandre. You drafted a guy, Marquise Blair, in the second above DK, and you never gave him a chance. You never gave him a shot, and when you did, it was outside his position that you drafted him at. So I think you got to play him at safety, see what he has, and if it doesn't work, you rethink the position the season after, and then you just roll with Ryan Neal as your backup.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Neal, he's not under contract though, right?
He's a free agent.
I think he's an RFA though. He's a restricted free agent.
No, he was an RFA last season. He's unrestricted this year, I think.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
I might be wrong though, so let me double check.
So while we're double checking here, do you guys think we should cut Jason Myers? He screwed us over this year, just like Blair Walsh did in 2017. Part of the reason, not way down the list of reasons why we had a bad season. Do you guys think that he's making too much for a kicker, right? Isn't he making?
Yeah. He's making $5 million this year. Cut him. Bring in like a bunch of guys to compete in training camp and go from there. I'm not paying $5 million to make 70% of your kicks.
Yeah, 100%. And
100% agree.
Great, his first 2 seasons with us.
Yeah, Jason Myers has good seasons and bad seasons. You know, there's a reason why he left the Seahawks and went to the Jets and came back. You know, he was really good in 2020, didn't miss a field goal, and then he missed 30% of his field goals last season. So move on.
Yeah, he seems to alternate good and bad seasons, so he's actually primed for a really good season this year if we keep him around.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny but true, and I'm still not paying him $5 million if I'm the GM.
No, for sure.
The biggest karma thing in Seahawks history had to be Blair Walsh, giving us that playoff win in Minnesota, even though I think we still should have won that game. Or and then like completely screwing us the year in 2017. 3 missed field goals and a half against Washington, missed the game time 49-yarder against Atlanta, and then when the season was over, he missed the field goal against Cardinals too. That was just brutal. But
yeah, that's another memory I want erased from my brain. So.
Yeah. So let's get into the quarterback position before we wrap up here, I guess, and what we want to do in the first round of the draft. So I've been thinking about this a lot, a little bit of film. There's a lot of good options, but the main thing is that we can't go with Drew Lock to start the season. And as much as I like Gino as a person, he's not the answer either. So do you guys know Gino? Is he a free agent? We still have him for year.
Yeah, he's a free agent.
Okay, he is. Okay, so he's probably not. He's on there.
He also got arrested for a DUI this offseason. So
that was on the cake of this year. But yeah, so what do you guys think? So my number one choice would obviously be like a lot of Seahawks fans, if he's innocent, and I know there's a lot of scrutiny that comes with this, and what he did and what he's being accused of it's bad, and it shouldn't be accepted by people. But Deshaun Watson would obviously, talent must be the ideal player for the Seahawks, they're going to do his research, and he has his court hearing coming up soon. So that would be number one. But number two is drafting a quarterback. And I know a lot of Seahawks fans want Malik Willis. He's very intriguing, but he's a very boom or bust prospect. At number 9, he struggled against higher competition. And then there's guys like Howell. There's Shea Patterson. And the player that I looked into today a little bit, I watched some film, and I really like, who reminds me a little bit of Josh Allen, is Carson Strong, who I would love to get. If we, I don't think we should go quarterback at 9, to be completely honest. I don't even know if Willis will be there, but I think that we have bigger needs at this point. I'd love to bring Carson Strong. I just feel like he's got a rocket arm. He had the knee injury. That's a major concern, but the guy gives us something that we haven't seen the Seahawks quarterback in a bit, at least since I've been watching. Matt Hasselbeck, Russell Wilson, Charlie Whitehurst, Tavares Jackson, rest in peace, and Seneca Wallace. All those guys, just name a few of our quarterbacks we've seen. All those guys were more, a little bit mobile, West Coast style quarterbacks who didn't have crazy arms. This guy has a lot of upside. I think, if we groom him for a year under a Mariota or even let Drew Lock play, whatever, I think that is starting to come to my mind as something I really want to happen. And I don't know if the Seahawks are going to do it, but he'd be awesome. And also Corral looks really good. And what do you guys think?
Go for it, BK.
So I'll be perfectly honest. I haven't done nearly as much looking into QBs as I probably should have. I've been focused on like a lot of the other positions in need because like up until 2 days ago, I haven't had a reason to. Yeah, but there's one that I cannot like shake. I don't want it to happen, but I have like a sinking feeling it might. I have a sinking feeling they're going to trade for Kirk Cousins.
That's Pete Carroll's favorite quarterback in the league.
Yep.
They want to compete, it's not the worst option, but I don't know if that's going to happen or not.
Yeah. So anyways, that was just like a funny thing that I wanted to bring up. But as far as Deshaun Watson goes, even if he is like absolved of all legal charges, that does not necessarily mean that the league is not going to issue a suspension on him probably for either half or all of the 2022 season. So we also have to factor that in if you want to go out. And also on top of that, I don't. We just like got a big QB off the books to try and like go into a rebuild. Why would we pay 40+ million a season on another QB? I think it's. I know Pete always wants to compete, but I think they need to realize that they're not in a position to like make the playoffs or go to a Super Bowl right now, and they need to focus on developing that younger talent. So target somebody in the draft, not at number 9. I think there are so many better targets that you can get. Also, I'm hearing rumblings that maybe the Lions will take Malik Willis at 2. So if Malik Willis is gone, I don't really want to take anybody in the first round.
Yeah.
So I guess that's the long and short of it for me.
Yeah, I don't see a quarterback in this draft that's extremely intriguing. But then again, when they drafted Russell Wilson, I might have said the exact same thing, unless, you have the first pick with RG3, right? Because that's who went first, or was it Andrew Luck that year?
It was Andrew Luck.
And then second was RG3, right?
Yep. God, it still annoys me to this day how much they screwed over RG3. Like,
it's Washington.
Freaking
Washington.
Washington
Commanders football for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think everybody is a little. I think everybody doesn't want to think it's true, but I think John Schneider and Pete Carroll really like Drew Lock, to be honest. I just think, I think they're going to give him every shot to be the starter here for this season. And I don't see them drafting a quarterback unless Malik Willis falls to them, which is very possibly true. And apparently there's reports that John Schneider did fall in love with Malik Willis at the combine. So if you go with Malik Willis, then yeah, there's your guy. But I'd rather them go defense and worry about quarterback the year after with guys like CJ Stroud and Bryce Young. Is that his name?
The price is right for Bryce.
Yeah,
the price is tanking is Bryce.
Yeah, I mean that's the quarterback draft that is more promising is definitely next year. I'm not too worried about quarterback this year. See what Drew Lock has. If Malik Willis is your guy, take him. If he's not, grab corner, pass rush.
One thing about there's so much bust potential, in my opinion. There, you see the issues him not picking up after his first read and struggling against. Didn't he play Ole Miss and he played terribly apparently. I mean, it's really it's at 9. You really got to be sure with this pick, after trading Russ. But if we got Malik Willis, I'd still be excited. It's a new change. He's got a lot of talent.
I wouldn't even be surprised if John Schneider just traded back like he always does, anyways. Like trades back, gets like maybe like 13 and 16 somehow. I don't know. Just like I don't know the numbers right now, but this just seems like his move. I don't know if they have a guy that they love. If they do, hopefully it's a corner. Stingley, Sauce, Kayvon, a pass run. I don't know, man. This is such an interesting time because I barely look into drafts when the Seahawks don't have a first round pick, which has been the last 2 years. Well, up until 2 days ago. So I really have to do my look into it. But right now, there's no quarterback that really crosses my mind as intriguing this season.
Yeah. So yeah, do you guys have anything else you want to get into before we wrap things up?
No, I think that covers everything, or the big items.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, I think Seahawks fans need to get ready for a tough couple seasons here. Something that we're not used to.
Really
at least over the past 10 years.
For me, I've only seen 09, and it's just been pretty brutal. Besides that, we've been somewhere next for a while.
And also watch the position of Pete Carroll. There's something that tells me that he wasn't exactly a part of this trade. I don't know if you guys remember when John Schneider signed his contract 2 years ago to his extension, but Pete Carroll, after his post-game presser against the Bills, he said, or was it? No, it would have been this season when John Schneider extended. Either way, when he extended, Pete Carroll at his press conference said that John has more say now. It doesn't seem like Pete Carroll has the final say on everything now. So I wouldn't be surprised if Pete Carroll retires. I mean, I know that sounds crazy, but just wait and watch for it. It might happen.
Yeah, that would suck, man. That just such a great coach, even though he has his faults, like a lot of coaches do. But we'll definitely So I want to thank everybody for listening today. It's our first podcast. I know from at least on my end, I'm gonna have more research done, stats pulled up, more stuff pulled up for this. But hopefully we'll be able to come back for you guys during free agency, and hopefully we'll be able to make a lot of moves. This is one of the most exciting offseasons in Seahawks history. Obviously, a lot of us weren't ready for rebuild. Some of us were, but we'll see what happens. And it's gonna be all for this one. We'll have a name hopefully at some point soon, and we'll keep getting into this. Hopefully during the season, if others are down, we could be able to make predictions. I love predicting football, even though I'm trying not to be bad at it. I'd like to predict it and see how we do, because I've done the past. So anyways, guys, thank you very much, and I'm going to stop the recording. All right.